Welcome back to the Phils Boardroom, where we will be touching base on your Phillies business over the last 10 games. This is Dave, and as always, joined by Chairman of the Board, Tom. Tom, what's going on?
Not much, Dave. Just I will say up front, voice is a little scratchy. Me and Dave were at the game on Saturday. Got a little exciting, but luckily we got a little extra voice here with us today. So
Yeah, definitely a very exciting episode. Very exciting time to be a Phillies fan. Still best team in baseball. And with that, we'll just jump right into it. So today's Ring the Bell is actually going to be a fireside chat with a special guest. And today's special guest is actually Hall of Fame baseball writer for ESPN, Tim Kurkjian. Tim.
Welcome, Tim.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Sorry I didn't wear my Phillies shirt, but
that's okay.
It'd be a little unprofessional to me.
Thanks for joining the show. And I have to admit, we've listened to you for most of our lives. We've watched you on TV. We've read your articles. But your voice, it's much deeper in person. Who knew you sounded like Barry White in real life?
Barry White. Look, it's a terrible voice, and it's not a really good look, and I'm 4 feet tall. But the lesson for all young writers and broadcasters is you don't have to have the greatest voice in the world. You don't have to look the greatest. You have to have information. If you have information and content, you know how to deliver it, you're okay. But this is the worst voice in television, radio, anywhere. But it's the only one I have, and the only one that's worse than mine is my son. And now we do a podcast together and we sound exactly the same.
Yeah, speaking of, it is a great podcast. Anybody who hasn't checked him out, at Great Gamer What on all the socials, Tim and Jeff, it's phenomenal. All of the guests every week is it's a treat. Every Tuesday they come out.
Every Tuesday we've gotten some great guests, and it's been so much fun. So we're just trying to laugh, and we're trying to learn something along the way. We don't have any heavy lifting here. We don't laugh enough in baseball. We're covering sports for a living. It's okay to have a good chuckle, and if you're a Phillies fan, it's really okay to have a good chuckle because you're 20 games over 500.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, thank you for joining. Definitely one of the most recognizable voices in all of baseball. So appreciate that. And as a matter of fact, Tom and I are both from Phoenixville, which is about 25 minutes from where we're recording right now.
We live in Phoenixville.
Well, we live in Phoenixville, but
all my Delco people are going to get very mad at me.
That's okay. Yeah. In fact, though, this isn't the first time that you've sat down and talked baseball with someone from Phoenixville. Your own colleague Kevin Nagandi is also from Phoenixville.
Is that right?
He is.
Kevin is a big Phillies fan.
Yeah, he is.
Every time I do Sports Center with him, he whispers to me off camera, tell me about my Phillies. What about this? What about that? When I ever deliver bad news, it ruins the show for him. But yeah, Kevin's a dear friend. He's great.
Great. And also from Phoenixville, real quick, Mike Piazza.
Well, yeah. Mike Piazza is one of the great baseball stories ever. As we know, he got drafted in the 68th round as kind of a favor to Tommy Lasorda, basically his godfather. And this is why baseball is so great, is that he is the greatest hitting catcher of all time. And no one even knew who he was because no one needed to draft him. I remember the scout that drafted him and found him, Mel Didier, called the house on Christmas Day once to wish Mike a happy, a Merry Christmas. Mike is 19 years old. And his dad said, Mike's out in the batting cage taking BP. He's in the backyard taking batting practice on Christmas Day. Wow. So you wonder, how did he get to the big leagues? Right. He was hitting on Christmas Day.
I heard just very quickly, there was another story I heard connecting Ted Williams, where he saw him because he was close with his godfather, and he called out his swing right away and said that kid's going to be.
Right.
So who knows? Yeah.
And if you've ever shook hands with Mike Piazza, you recognize those are as big and as strong hands as you'll ever see. So when he signed at the end of his career with the Padres, basically his final year, they had to do a hand strength test, and he broke all the Padre records for hand strength. And Bruce Bochy, and this is way too old for you guys, Bruce Bochy said it was like having Herman Munster on our team. That's how strong Mike Piazza's hands were.
Yeah, well, that's an incredible story, and great respect, even though he played most of his career for the Mets, for Mike Piazza. But I think that's enough Mets talk for now in the Phillies podcast, and we'll jump right in here. This Phillies team is off to a historic start, especially from our standards. 34-14, already 20 games over 500, a mark that did not hit last year. As a matter of fact, they didn't hit 18 over until September 24th last year, which is pretty crazy, and it just tells you how good they've been so far. won 14 straight series, and have only dropped consecutive games twice this season, with one being the first 2 games against the Braves, and then again on April 23rd and April 24th. So with all of that said...
It's been a while.
Yeah, all of that said, what do you see about this team that separates them from the past 2 seasons?
Well, their starting pitching is the best in baseball right now. They have the lowest starters ERA of any team in baseball. And when you could start with Wheeler and Nola, and now you bring Ranger Suarez in, who's been a good pitcher the last few years. Now he's a great pitcher. Now you have a starting rotation that can match up with anybody. Suarez, as we know, is one of the great fielding pitchers that I've ever seen. And I remember last postseason, I was talking to Brad Miller, former Philly, former major leaguer,
Yep.
and we were just talking about a million things. And he said, I want you to keep an eye on the one pitcher. This is last October, who someday next year is going to emerge and is going to be an absolute star in the league, Ranger Suarez. That's the guy he picked out in October as the guy who's got this incredible move up coming. And now we have seen it. So you get this kind of rotation with a bullpen where everybody throws 98 miles an hour. That's the biggest reason why the Phillies are where they are.
Bamboo Brad knows a thing or two.
Oh, my gosh. And, of course, it's a good offensive team that's only going to get better because now finally you got Harper healthy for a full year and he's starting to swing it better. You're going to get Turner back because when Trey Turner's right, as we saw, he's a devastating offensive player. And this is the best Alec Boehm has ever played. So I really like their offensive team, but their pitching is even better than their offense.
Well, let me ask you something, because that's where a lot of the talk is going. But I guess it's kind of like if you're not talking about him, it's a good thing. The manager, Rob Thompson, because when he first came a couple years ago, we caught fire after Girardi left, and the team started to kind of shape into what it has become. And I wanted to give you another story from Phoenixville. Me and my friend were at a bar in town, and there's a group of Canadians there. I didn't even know Rob was Canadian at this time. And they were in town for their daughter was in a lacrosse tournament, and we're watching the Phillies. Rob comes up, they're like, oh yeah, my dad and his friend over there, they grew up with Rob Thompson. They went to grade school with him all through high school. And we were all thinking, like, this is when the Philly Rob t-shirts, that he's like this dry guy. And they were all telling stories how, like, he was the class clown. Like, he was the guy in the front of the classroom growing up that was making jokes. The teachers, like, all poked fun of him. Everybody knew who he was. He was a guy, like, that they just completely caught me off guard.
Doesn't come across that way at all.
No, but he is wicked funny because I've seen it, and he's very understated in everything that he does. And most important, he's a really good manager because he learned from, among others, Joe Torre. Joe Torre was the guy when things really went poorly who backed off, and instead of yelling at everyone, he relaxed. That's what happened to the Phillies when he took over. Instead of, and I love Joe Girardi. Joe Girardi is a really good manager. But Joe did it a little more militaristic, let's say, than Rob Thompson did. And when Rob Thompson came in, things really calmed down. And Kyle Schwarber told me in the first postseason for Rob Thompson, he said, if anyone ever goes after our manager, 25 guys are going to go over the railing and go get that guy.
Wow.
When you have that kind of respect for your manager, that not only do you want to win, but you want to win for your manager, that's when you know things are working well.
Yeah, he's very well respected from what we know, too.
Love that.
And a big hockey guy, and he loves hockey, and he loves the Flyers. He goes to a lot of games here because he's Canadian and he grew up going to hockey games.
Yeah, it was funny. The last thing I said to them, because the guys' wives are all saying, oh, he won't ever text them. They won't ever send him a text or anything. It's just the most Canadian answer is like, oh, we don't want to bother him while he's working.
Yes.
All right, so another question for you is, some fans are starting to say that when it's all said and done, Bryce will be the greatest player to ever don a Phillies uniform. Who do you think is the best Philly of all time? And what would it take for Bryce to get there?
All right, well, Mike Schmidt's the greatest Philly ever. He's the greatest third baseman ever. For me, he won a World Series. He won 10 Gold Gloves and 8 home run titles, which means he can play the piano and move it too. That's how big and graceful he is.
Yeah.
And when you're the greatest ever at one position, it's hard to beat that. Now, Steve Carlton is a pretty good second for the Phillies. So, yes, Bryce Harper could end up being better than Mike Schmidt. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Do I think Bryce Harper's going to be a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. Do I think he's got 8 more really good years in him? Yes. But Schmidt was really, really special, and I'm not sure everyone appreciates that combination of power and defense that he brought to the Phillies for a long time.
Yeah, unfortunately, we weren't born and able to watch Mike Schmidt like you were and things like that. And from hearing from you and others who were able to watch him all the time, it was pretty incredible. I mean, I think today's day and age it is Bryce Harper, but if you really look at it from what you just said, he's not going to get there, but he is going to have, again, a Hall
Bryce
of Fame
Harper
career.
wants to tear your throat out in every single play, and that kind of competitive nature is going to carry him a long way and is going to lengthen his career. And I just found it so refreshing that when he got here, he said, I don't want an opt-out. I don't want anything. I'm staying here. This is my home. We're going to win here. And once they win here a couple times, and I think they will while he's here, then we change the subject a little bit more, because in order to be the best player in the history of the franchise, you probably have to win.
Yeah. And especially in Philadelphia, very much appreciates a guy choosing to come to the city, and the way he's embraced is great. But let me ask you, on the note of all the gold gloves, do you think Harper could develop and get a gold glove at first base?
Yeah, I am so impressed with how he's learned to play first base. And again, let's understand, he used to be a catcher. If you've been a catcher at one point in your life, you learn an awful lot. You learn how to block a ball. You learn how to take a ball off your mask, how to take it off your chest. So as long as a catcher is athletic to move somewhere else, as Bryce Harper was going to right field, and he was a very good right fielder, I think he can be a Gold Glove first baseman someday. That's how athletic he is, and that's how determined he is to learn another position.
That's awesome. All right, well, one of the other things from your podcast, Mr. KURKJIAN, the at Great Gamer one more time every Tuesday, but you guys do the KURKJIANs, who I'm sure a lot of people out there are already familiar with. You know a little bit of statistics, it seems like, a little bit about the game, but we're going to come back to that. At the end of the show, we're going to hit our business review, the boardroom must go on, but let's come back and join us at the end here.
Sure, of course.
Well, I'd just like to say that was awesome.
That was awesome, honestly. Thanks again, Tim, for joining us today. And with that, we'll get into some more recognition. I want to take some time. This past weekend, we didn't really realize this until Friday. We were watching the game. It was actually Salute to Service weekend across all of Major League Baseball. So I just want to take a minute here and thank you, Tom, for your service. You did many years in the Army. So I really appreciate what you've done for our country and protecting our country, as well as all of those who are currently serving or who have served. So thanks again.
I appreciate that, Dave. I did a few. A lot of people did a lot more, but I appreciate it. And we got the very, very sweet bucket hats for Salute to Service on Saturday. So it was very much worth losing my voiceover.
They're worth it. They're pretty nice. Unfortunately,
they actually are awesome.
I have too big of a head. They don't fit on my giant dome, but they are pretty cool. And it's also Memorial Day weekend coming up too. So again, just a good time to recognize those who have served. So thanks again.
Well, I appreciate that. And then also for Memorial Day weekend, if you got to get some boardroom spirits for your barbecues, cookouts, watch the Phillies. We are once again proud to be linked up and partner with those guys. Appreciate all the support they've given us. Should have some more T-shirts coming soon for all the directors of the board out there.
They're in hot demand.
Yeah,
big demand.
We need more mediums and schmediums. We quickly realized. But yeah, they're fantastic. Phoenixville, the Boardroom Restaurant and Bar. Shout out to all those guys. They do a phenomenal job. Great food specials. Their new spring menu is amazing. All the boardroom spirits, you can pretty much find any wine and spirits. Canned cocktails as well. Got the cranberry lime here. Always delicious and honestly a great spot. Their patios, there's actually a crane in their front yard right now. They're rebuilding, expanding.
I saw that. They're redoing it.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's going to be great.
So if you're in the area, check those guys out. Tell them Dave and Tom sent you. They're the best.
Thank you, Boardroom. All right, quick industry update. Things around the league that we give a shit about.
We always start with.
Yes. This one, the Braves breaking news, really. As of today, we're recording here on a Monday. They had a doubleheader today. They just finished the first game where they lost. They've now lost 3 to the Padres.
Ooh.
And at risk of getting swept in 4 games tonight, which would be pretty great.
And they got swept by the Dodgers earlier this season, too. Have the Phillies got swept by anybody?
No, and as a matter of fact,
so.
we have 4 common opponents with the Braves: the White Sox, Marlins, Padres, and Mets. We are 11-2 against those teams. They are currently 9-8. Potentially could be 9-9 by the end of the night.
All right, but everybody's saying how we don't face any 500 teams.
Yeah, it's
all right. We'll see.
If we almost play the same teams,
yeah,
as they do, as everybody else. There's only 5 teams over 500 right now in the National League.
Good, fine, but we don't want to poke fun anything. But there was a clip going around of Acuna dropping a pretty routine fly ball.
Yeah, it happened last night. It was good to see.
You got
Couldn't happen to a better player.
I don't know if it's more enjoyable what the Phillies are doing, or if we had to trade this off to watch the Braves completely collapse, it'd be a tough. Yeah.
I can't make fun of him too much because it looked like me in kickball last week. But still, I don't get paid millions of dollars to catch a ball.
All right, well, forget them. Let's get into our own issues because we got a couple.
Let's get down to business. Safety, injury updates. There's a couple things here. Harper, JT, and Schwarber were all out at some point over the last 10 games. In addition to Trey already being out for 2 weeks, and we still went 8-2.
They're showing some depth.
Showing a lot of depth, which was not a strength even up to 2 years ago. So great to see that. Taiwan game during the Mets series, really a freak injury. Got struck in the foot after he got hit directly back to him. He went out for the game. I think it was in the 4th inning. Thought that he would be out for a little while, but he's actually going to be making a start again on Wednesday.
Yeah, and Walker, not ERA isn't as low as it was, but he's kind of getting back up to speed. He's looked okay. He hasn't looked bad. X-rays were negative, so
yeah. Hopefully everything's all good. And then with Trey, things seem to be progressing a little bit faster than we expected. That's not a surprise to me. He's a superior athlete. And usually guys like him recover pretty well. Seems to be doing sprints, taking ground balls, and hitting in the cage. And the update that I saw is actually tomorrow, Tuesday, he'll start taking BP again.
Okay. I go back to my original take. Hamstring, take your time, Trey. We got guys. We got the depth, yeah. But
yeah, we've proven that we have the depth and can do it. Obviously, we want him back, but we can do it without him when we need to. All right, delivery. We've been through Q1 now. Q1 is just over 40 games. We're at 48. We're 34-14. But this first quarter of the season has been phenomenal.
It's been fun to watch,
yeah,
to say the least.
Currently at 115 game win pace, which, put this in perspective for everybody who's listening. The record is 116 games in all of Major League Baseball, but at 2001 Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the league's been fairly average, kind of across the board. And that's even going back to tongue in cheek. Losing all these 500. There's a lot of teams that are floating right around 500 that might be above 500 if we didn't sweep them.
Yeah, exactly. Goes back to that whole argument. We haven't played anybody over 500 since the first series against the Braves. But you're exactly right.
Yeah. But the graph looks good. Check out the social media. Q1 in the books, and it's a trajectory that looks nice. We sat there at 95 wins. What are we on pace for, 110?
115. The record's 116. So it's a 708 winning percentage. And, yeah, we'll post this graph this week. It's pretty cool to see. It's a very beautiful thing, honestly. It's just consistently moving up. No dips at all. So off to literally the best start the Phillies have ever been on.
Yeah.
So enjoy it now.
It's a long season.
Crazy.
It's a long season, but it's hard not to feel pretty good right now.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, especially after today's first game loss for the Braves in their doubleheader, we are now 5.5 games up on the Atlanta Braves in the NL East. Huge.
Wow.
The last time we talked, we are recording a little bit earlier than we expected. You called for us to be at 4 games up?
I think I said 4 or 4.5, so they even exceeded that. We knew the Braves had
less games too.
And
we were
we're going to
originally
get into
looking
the
for.
series, but these were hard fought games.
Absolutely.
Division opponents are always hard fought, but this was we'll get into the series a little bit here. Like the Marlins 2-1, they're not having a great season, but these are guys that they know us, we know them.
Yeah, and we went total 8-2 over this 10-game NL East span. Marlins obviously not doing well. The first 2 games kind of took care of business, handled them pretty easily with an 8-2 win and an 8-3 win. Pitching was dominant again. Casti and Rojas had another good game mixed in there, but Game 3 was actually a very, very frustrating. Probably Wheeler's worst start of the season, I would say.
I think
outside of maybe the one with the Pirates where he let up the grand slam, this one I still would probably put up there. Very frustrating game. We ended up losing 7-6, and we lost it in extras.
Right. Yeah, that was a tough one.
It was tough, but moving on to the Mets series, we went 3-1. Game 1, arguably, my opinion, game of the year so far. 2 reasons. Coming off of a tough loss on the Marlins series. We did not play well throughout most of this game. We came back in the 9th. We won it in the 10th. Stott had an amazing game.
This is also the game earlier in the I think it was in the 3rd or 4th. The catcher got up and went to throw the ball back to the pitcher and domed it right off of the brim of Bryce's helmet. So I was like, all right, here we go. Mets game 1. Then they come in up 1. You know Edwin Diaz is coming in. I didn't know. I haven't seen Mets games. I didn't know if they still did the stupid trumpets for his entrance music, because if you remember back to the playoffs 2 years ago, the 101 win Mets or 104, whatever they had, and Diaz was like didn't blow a save all season, and they brought him in down 4 against the Padres to end that out. It's like you can never go back to the trumpets, in my opinion. And they come out with the trumpets, and what happened?
Yeah, well, he had a pretty terrible outing, and it caused the comeback win for us. But to that point, Tom, I mean, we would do the same thing with last year.
I would boo if they would have did if we were the exact same.
We did the same thing with Kimbrel.
I booed. I was there.
I know.
In the 8th, they did it.
I know. But you're right. You're absolutely right.
I think
and Frank from Barstool had an absolute meltdown.
But even Jerry Seinfeld said it when they did it 2 years ago. You had a great thing, Mets, and just like you do with all things, you ruined it.
It's true. But I mean, this was a tough series. It always is against the Mets, no matter how good of a team they have or how well they're playing that particular part of the season. We took care of business in Game 2. Nola complete game shutout. There's a weird day game. This series was weird. It was a home and home.
Yeah.
2-2. So Nola dominated, best start of the year so far.
Curveball looked phenomenal. Yeah, curveball's back when he's on and he can place his fastball and the curveball's on. He's tough.
Yeah.
And our lineup's hitting well enough where if he gives up those 2 home runs, you can still pull it out and your blood pressure doesn't go too high.
Mine usually does with him, but I was feeling good that day. Game 3, won 10-5. Offense kind of exploded here. It was a very sloppy game, especially early on by both teams. The Mets just made more costly mistakes than we did. Our base running blunders were pretty notable with Castellanos and Dusty, our third base coach, even waving JT home when he shouldn't have. They cleaned it up, obviously, and since then, but they've been having these games like this where it's just head-scratching base running. But overall, 10-5 win.
Yeah.
Offense just took care of any miscues that we had, and the Mets didn't help themselves by any means.
And that was one of them with Rojas in center where he dove and probably didn't need to dive. He doesn't even know how fast he is. And they didn't give him an error because I think officially it's if your feet leave the ground, you don't get an E. But probably should have gotten an error on those balls. And,
he's been a little awkward out in the outfield, and we'll touch on that a little bit. But that game, he did not have a great game in the field. And then Game 4, just like in the Marlins series, game we could have won, should have won. We lost it in extras in 11 innings, actually 6-5. Just a tough game. And the bullpen actually didn't help us too much. We had 2 wild pitches that scored 2 additional runs for the Mets, and they eventually won by 1 run, 6-5 that game.
Yeah. But I'll count this as one series, right? The 2-2.
Yeah,
right?
I counted as one series, even though it was a home and home.
Coming out 3-1. That's a tough series.
Yeah, I mean,
Proved a lot, in my opinion.
it was tough, and you always play. Like I said, the Mets always play us tough, no matter what. Moving on to Nationals, got a clean sweep.
Beautiful.
3-game sweep. Game 1, won 4-2. Wheeler bounced back from his shaky start. Last start, again, didn't have his best stuff, but he still dominated. I think he only had like 3 hits the entire game.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so game 2, we were there. This was probably also up there with that first game with the Mets series as potentially best game of the year so far. We were tied 2-2 going in the 9th. Nats went up 3-2 in the 9th. Tom, what was going through your head at that point?
Not a whole lot of, anxiety. Anxiety. Because it was a long day. It was a long day.
It was
a long day, and you just wanted something. You knew that something could happen, but then all of a sudden there's 2 outs. You're down 3-2, bottom of the 9th. And, a kid came through.
But he still always had a little hope. It wasn't like in past seasons where it's like, oh, it's over. You still, because we watched this team all year, they have it in them to be the Fightins.
Well, you saw it because where we were sitting out in right field.
106.
Yeah, the crowd was leaving, and then all of a sudden you saw it. You saw it. It looked like someone hit a reverse button on a VCR.
Yeah,
like you saw it in the aisles coming right back in.
It was pretty amazing. Yeah, Cody Clemens tied it up in the 9th, take us to extras with a 2-out home run to deep center field.
Yeah,
it was awesome to be there.
That place was electric. They said Sunday was the most attendance of the season. I'd imagine Saturday was probably right there too.
Yeah,
that place
it was packed.
Playoff
atmosphere. The weather wasn't great, so probably if the weather was even nicer, it probably would have been number 1.
Yeah, we had a little rain delay, so maybe that helped the crowd get a little more loose too.
Yeah, well, and then Harper played the other hero, won it in the 10th with the sac fly.
Just comes through, man. Just comes through.
He's Mr. Clutch. And then game 3 yesterday, it was an interesting game. Early on in the game, Nola, what I would call his patented 2-run home run in the 4th. His first hit of the game was a 2-run home run. Stuff he would do last year, the year before that, all the time. And then he lit up another home run in the 5th for the Nationals to go up 3-2. As a matter of fact, those were Nola's only 2 hits of the game. Of course, 2 home runs.
Crazy.
Down 3-2, but then in the bottom of the 5th, the offense came alive.
And for all we'll get into a little bit more. As much as you'll kind of lean towards the other side of Schwarber. That all started with a Schwarber walk. That whole run.
He's the walk king right now.
Yeah,
at least for this team.
I think 3rd in baseball.
Yeah, I mean he does get on base. He does walk a lot. So Clemens again came in clutch in the bottom of the 5th, 2 RBI double, and then Bohm really broke it open with a 3-run home run, 5 total RBIs for the game actually. When he hit this 3-run home run in the 8th, and then Casti also had 3 hits that game. So overall offense,
Nicky Singles.
Yeah.
So and that 3-run home run ended up being pretty important when the 9th inning got a little shaky there. Without those 3 runs, it would have been a lot closer. Yeah, it would have been not as comfortable because I think Turnbull 2 in the 9th, right?
Yeah, he did. We were up 11-3 in the 9th. Turnbull came in and let up 2.
But they got it done. Great stretch. Division games.
8-2. I mean, couldn't really ask for much more, to be honest with you. Last year in comparison, we're 34-14 right now. Last year at this time, 22-26, 4 games under 500.
That's crazy. So we were right now. The Washington Nationals are, I think, 20-25. So
yeah,
think
about that.
Come
a long way. It's a great season. Let's again embrace it. Now let's embrace it.
Yeah, it's really nitpicking because, I mean, if there's a quality I want my team to have, it's figuring out a way to win. And I think which game was it where the last one we recorded, we were on that 8-2 streak, but we gave up that last game, and Harper's slamming bats
right. We recorded right after.
These guys just are not okay with losing. It seems like they just don't accept losing.
No matter what it is, they take every loss hard. And it's evident this year. And that's, I would say, the biggest difference that I've seen from a clubhouse perspective this year versus last year and in 2022.
Yeah, I agree.
So over this 10-game span, just want to kind of point this out too. We talked through a lot of these games, right? But if you recall, as we were reading through them, there were a lot of game and extra innings.
Yeah.
4 of the 10 games went to extras. We went 2-2 in those extra inning games. Just goes to show, even though we went 8-2 overall, NL East matchups are always going to be tough, no matter how good each team is on one side or the other.
The NL Beast.
All right, moving over to quality, we'll touch on how the players are doing overall, especially around our objectives for the year. And looking at this from a quarterly lens, too, talk about who our top performers are for Q1. Well, let's start off here in the red. Similar players. JT Real Muto, overall not having a terrible season. He really hasn't.
He hasn't had much chance to get out of the red here. He's played half the games, I think, since the last time we talked.
Yeah, he hasn't played a lot in the past 10 games, but his objective was 20 stolen bases. Only has 1 stolen base for the year. This might be something that we need to sit down and rethink as objective. I know you are against it, but if we change it now, he has 3 quarters to prove himself in other areas.
Okay. All right. I will think about it.
But they're over almost 30% of his hits are extra base hits, which also doesn't help in this category because he's on second or better 30% of the time.
Yeah, he just skips that step.
Yeah.
Goes right to second rather than get on and have to steal.
Exactly. Maybe that's part of it.
Maybe we'll include doubles.
Maybe. We could do that. It's not bad. Let's
We'll
think
it over.
on
We'll have a sit down with JT. We'll figure this out.
We'll chat offline.
Yeah.
All right, Nick Castellanos.
Circle back.
Still in the red. Still well below his trajectory of 100 RBIs this season, currently at 19. However, this past week has been significantly better than the weeks previous. He has had 7 RBIs over the past week. The second best week over the start of this season was 3 RBIs. So he had a pretty great week, and you could see him starting to show glimpses of turning the corner. I know we've talked about this pretty much every episode, like, oh, could this be it? Could this be it? Could this be it? It seems like he's putting them together a little more consistently now. So we'll see. We'll see how he progresses. He currently has 1 more strikeout and 1 more walk than Brandon Marsh, but with 41 more at-bats.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Marsh has hit 40 less times, but has the same amount of strikeouts as Castellanos. Again, we talked about this. He's making contact. It's just weak hit balls, pop-ups, unlucky plays, warning track power.
Yeah, and he was hitting it hard. I mean, you showed three singles, then the other game where he was strung together a couple of extra base hits, I think. But like, I think they're maybe taking a little note out of Alex Boehm's playbook and just leveling out his swing and getting on base, and the runners are gonna be there soon. And the power is going to come back. He's going to go on a stretch at some point where he starts hitting some home runs.
Just waiting for it.
Just as what his life is. Schwarber will come in June. Castile will come after.
Mr. October.
But we'll see. I think we set a good goal for him, and we expect him to get out of the red.
Another player we fully expect to get out of the red, too, also hasn't had a terrible season, and in many ways, especially early on, pretty great season to start. Brandon Marsh, objective 380 on base percentage, currently at 310. However, he only has 14 walks. That's what's killing him right now.
Yeah, and he's taken a little bit of step back for sure. He came out hot out of the gate, but this team has kind of done that where they've balanced each other out. So
they pick each other up.
Yeah,
they really do.
I would like to see a little more consistency, laying off some pitches for sure. And he still has been pretty good in the field when he's had the chances to flash.
He definitely has. That has not been anything to complain about from our perspective.
And his hair, does he trim it? Do you think does he keep it the same length? Is it going to get wetter and longer as the season? Yeah.
That's a great question. Maybe if we have him on as a guest sometime, we'll have to ask.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the yellow. We had somebody new move in here, but we'll touch on Alec Boehm first. Yeah. Boehm still in the yellow. I know. I get it. How could we have Alec Boehm in the yellow? He is tied for first with Ozuna with 42 RBIs for most in baseball right now. He has 18 doubles, which is the most in baseball. He's currently 6th in average with a 330 average, and then on pace for 17 home runs. But our objective, this is actually a typo here, is 20 home runs for him. He's not quite where we need him to be from that perspective, but everything else, he's all world.
Yeah, let's get him in the 20s, and he's making it look easy. It just looks effortless, and like the flow is going. He's got to keep. I mean, starting third baseman All-Star weekend, unless something crazy happens.
You would think. You would think.
And keeps it going. There's no reason he won't be in MVP talks if he keeps playing like this. Knock on wood. Stay healthy, big fella. But 42 RBIs with only 5 home runs. Yes, it also shows that the people are getting on in front of him, but that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's not like he's lacking power. He's just swinging the swing. He's making it look easy. He's putting the ball wherever he wants.
And I'll take it. I would gladly be wrong with this objective for the rest of the season as long as he continues to do what he's doing.
You're still in the yellow, though, Alec. We expect 20 home runs.
All right. The guy who moved in this category now has had a great 10-game span over the last 2.5 weeks, really. Bryson Stott. And I would call him the most improved player overall through Q1 so far. Stotty having a great past couple of weeks. And as a matter of fact, over the past 10 games, hitting 400, 12 hits, 2 home runs, 12 RBIs, and 12 runs scored.
So most improved from how he started the season to how we're playing now? Okay.
Yeah. His objective is a 300 average, currently at 279.
Also very much in play to be starting infield all-star. I mean, if
he continues the way that he's playing the past 2 weeks, yeah, definitely.
Realistically, if Trey didn't go down, the entire infield could have been Phillies in the All-Star game. Harper, Bohm, Stott.
Did the Braves have that last year? Braves had like 7 players.
Good question.
I don't know. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It really could have
All-Star Weekend's going to be fun. It's been a little while.
It will.
Maybe Schwarber will get the Home Run Derby invite again. I don't know.
Who knows? We'll see. Wouldn't it be ironic if Bohm does?
That'd actually be awesome. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Aaron Nola, he is creeping even closer. Even though we talked about
your boy,
his game yesterday, letting up 2 home runs, he still has lowered his ERA since the last time we spoke to a 3.05. His objective is a 3.0. Inching so close. Classic Nola. Just wants to tease us a little bit. Hopefully he'll break through then the next start. But over this 10-game span, he has 2 starts, 2 wins, ERA of 1.13, 13 strikeouts, and then again he had that complete game against the Mets on May 14th.
Yeah, you must be aware. Maybe we'll have to ask Tim KURKJIAN if next time he runs into him that he knows what our expectations are.
Yeah,
for the Phils Boardroom.
We should let him know
what Dave's expectations are. I should say. You're very hard.
I'll admit I'm a little too hard on him.
But no, he looks good. He's settling in, for no doubt about it. Our starting pitching is we're nitpicking really. Like we're getting a little spoiled. And
definitely are.
Yeah.
Can't complain too much. And then moving to the green, Schwarber has been consistently really in the green all season with his objective of 200 average, currently at 214. Nudged it a little higher than last time we spoke. Hasn't really done anything crazy. As a matter of fact, he hasn't had a home run since May 6th.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's currently May 20th. So 2 weeks.
But, I was a little hard on Schwarbs, I think. But the more I watch, he's really done a great job. If they're not going to pitch to him, he's laying off. He's getting the walks. And June is coming. And what happens every year in June?
Schwarberfest.
Schwarber catches fire. So, I mean, if he's seeing the ball this well outside of the zone and the way the lineup is performing, they're going to have to start pitching to him eventually.
Yeah, it's going to come, and we expect big things from him in Q2. Hoppa. Bryce Harper, objective of 30 home runs, currently on pace for 34.
Ooh.
He's kind of cooled off this past week, but, that's just because he had 3 the week before that.
Yeah.
273 average, 380 on-base percentage, and a 509 slugging. Leading the team in on-base percentage right now.
Yeah, Harper's just doing Harper things, living up to the moment. stealing that game away, the sacrifice fly. I mean, and he's been a stud at first baseman. There's been a couple times where it's like he might be trying to do a little too much, get out of position, but for the most part, it's looked pretty solid.
Yes, splitting hairs if we have anything to complain about with Bryce.
Right. He hasn't tried to dive into the dugout for a ball recently, so
I think he stopped doing that after the first series. But speaking of diving, we talked about Johan diving in the outfield.
That was a beautiful transition, Dave.
Yeah. Johan Rojas, he's in the green because we've said before, we didn't have very high expectations for him. He's currently hitting 231. I think we just need to embrace him for who he is, and I think that might be part of his defensive woes, is that he might be a little too hard on himself because we're expecting this guy to be as good of a hitter as everybody else is, as everybody else on this team, right? And maybe that's just not who he is. Maybe we just take him to be a lower 220, 230 hitter that plays really, really, really good defense.
Yeah.
Like, let's just leave the guy alone and let him play ball.
And I like the way you put that. Like, he's leveling off to what he is, but I would also argue we got to remember he's 23. And because of the way he performed in the playoffs, the way he performed in the playoffs last year, it was pretty much unanimous. We want this guy every day in center field. Before he had the woes to start the season, everybody pretty much agreed on that.
Yeah, even with a 93 batting average last playoff.
Yeah, because of what he did defensively in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Right. And so to go from that, be a 23-year-old, and for what it's worth, Saturday, I think when we were tailgating, Dave showed some pictures of himself when he was 23 years old. I think we can all agree that the 23-year-olds, there's room for some growth.
I've definitely grown a lot since I was 23.
You tried to fit into some tight T-shirts back then.
Oh, my God. Thanks for that, Tom. Oh, my God. All right, Zach Wheeler. He had a shaky start, but it wasn't really his fault. He wasn't getting any run support at the beginning of the season. But since then, he's been really, really solid. 5 total wins so far. His objective is 15, on pace for 17 total wins. And as a matter of fact, he's currently tied with Garrett Cole for the most quality starts in baseball since 2020.
That's amazing.
True ace.
Especially when you consider, I think 2020 was when Garrett Cole had that one stretch where he was like 18-0, something ridiculous.
Stupid.
Yeah. But Wheeler's Wheeler.
He deserves a Cy Young at some point in his career. He really does. He's been playing great.
I would imagine still the favorite. Yeah.
I think he still is, but the next man is nipping on his heels.
Yeah.
Ranger Suarez.
Oof.
Dominant. 0.76 whip. We gave him I guess it wasn't too good. It wasn't a great objective. We thought a 1.1 whip would be an amazing year for Ranger. He's exceeded all expectations. And as a matter of fact, he leads the Major League Baseball on whip, which is walks and hits per innings pitched, for those that may be wondering.
Thank you.
Currently has a 1.0, exactly 1.0 ERA.
Yeah, I guess Bamboo Brad was on to something when he said that to KURKJIAN. And
absolutely.
I mean, the way he performs, how cool he is, the way he fields, shooing for a Gold Glove, standing by that forever. He should get it for as long as he pitches. He should get it as long as he pitches enough games. But it's just unbelievable, man. Pitching tomorrow. He'll be pitching tomorrow.
He'll pitch tomorrow. But we want to touch on a few things over this 8-0 start at the beginning of the year. So he's 8-0, 1.0 ERA, 51 Ks, 9 walks. Okay? Keep in mind that stat line. He's one of only 7 players ever to start any 8-game span with those same numbers or better. Those names on that list with him, the other 6, or a few of these here, are Clayton Kershaw, Cliff Lee, Johan Santana, and Roger Clemens, from most recent memory.
And Bob Gibson. That's a pretty impressive list.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive company to be sitting
Some rare
next to.
air there.
I feel like the closest thing I've witnessed happen was the Cliff Lee in 2009, and it's that same sense that, like, because Cliff Lee obviously in the field, everybody remembers the catch in the World Series. It's just a casual, boop, and that's the same stuff. It's the same swagger, both of them.
There's
crazy.
A lot of similarities between the two, and it's great to have him. It's been great to watch all year him really blossom into an elite pitcher.
Yeah, and you just, I mean, there's no end in sight.
Yeah, he's just killing it right now. Speaking of killing it right now, we'll move on to people. Talk about Cody Clemens here.
Yeah, and we've touched on it a little bit, but it's just been awesome. Yeah, a nice segue from Roger Clemens. Feats being done by Ranger Suarez.
Exactly.
That Cody can tell him in person, his kid.
Roger can tell him in person.
Yeah, I guess a good point.
So Cody, he was caught up earlier this year when Bryce was out on paternity leave, but then he's been caught up more consistently now with Trey being on the IL. During his time up, he's gone 9 for 28, a 321 average, a 1.166 OPS. We talked in the other episodes, anything over a 1 is amazing.
Right.
You are an all-star level player if you consistently hit at that level. And then he has 2 doubles, 3 home runs, 10 total RBIs.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And here's another fun fact. He now has the same amount of home runs as the reigning NL MVP, Acuna.
Ronald Acuna Jr.?
That's right. So who had and he has one
He
less.
also has way better plays in the field.
Yeah, one less embarrassing drop of a routine fly ball.
So I got to ask, he's been playing so well, and there have been rumblings about people asking out there, how do we keep him once Trey comes back? Should we keep him up?
Right. And I kind of mentioned it, I think, a little bit before. He's kind of, at least for me, what I expected to get from Merrifield.
Yeah.
Is kind of what he's providing, where Merrifield's kind of been a little hit or miss. I've seen something of moving Harper out to the outfield, and I don't know. It's a good problem to have.
That is a possibility. I don't know if Harper will ever go back to the outfield.
I have no interest in that. Yeah,
at first, and Harper in the outfield. But here's a take, and this is just my mind going crazy. He has been learning to play the outfield more.
Yeah,
is there a world where he transitions over to left field? Marsh becomes the everyday center fielder, and we actually utilize Pache and Rojas in trades to get some pitcher or something during the trade deadline.
There's going to be more of that talk for sure coming as we move closer to the trading land. It's interesting
because you can't really do it. There's nobody to send down right now.
I mean, look, we got Clemens in a trade that worked out pretty well. A lot of our trades have worked out pretty well recently. We can have another. We'll talk about that on a later episode. But
I think legitimately the only starter right now that we can actually send down to AAA without.
Because they already used their options, right?
Yeah, is Rojas.
No, Rojas, we can't send down to AAA. He's
Rojas,
out.
we can't?
Yeah.
I know Pache we can't.
Rojas, we can't. Because that was a lot of talk early in this season where it would have made sense to get him right.
We're in that weird but good situation to be in where we can't really send anybody down.
We have,
a lot of veteran players.
Yeah, I think that talk is going to pick up. And we'll have to, as it does, we'll get into it a little bit more. But there's some possibilities out there. There's some maybe shore up the bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's interesting right now. Again, good problem to have. And then do you want to touch on Turnbull? I know we haven't really talked about him, but over this 10-game span is really when he's gotten thrown into the bullpen, and still a head-scratcher on how we're utilizing him.
Yeah, he's never been a bullpen guy his whole career. He comes back off the injury. He's pitching the best he's ever pitched in his career. Everybody's falling in love with him. The rotation seems to be about as perfect as you can have a starting pitcher rotation. But then Walker comes back. He's got the contract. You need to start him. I get it. But now we're kind of in that iffy land. And, there was going to be the long reliever, but now it seems. But then all of a sudden, the game 2 against the Mets, I think game 2 or 3, Sanchez game, and then he didn't come in.
He came in for 2 innings.
Yeah.
Yesterday he came in for 1 inning in the 9th.
So it's one of those things where I get it, you're trying to figure it out, but it's hard to watch a little bit because the last thing you want to see is them screw him up when he's been doing so well. But also Strom's been pitching amazing. Just a side note there.
Ever since his first game with the Braves when he let up 3 runs. But
I don't know.
We'll see, but it's interesting.
You like him in a closing role?
I don't like him in the closing role. No, I like him as a long reliever, but we've been pitching so well that it's kind of awkward for him.
Right, and then when's he going to get his innings?
Yeah,
and now all of a sudden you're trying
weird,
to
again.
Now
Good
you're
problem
trying
to have, but a weird problem. It's still a problem.
Because that's when they try to force innings to him, like they bringing him in the 9th and 11th.
Exactly. All right, in the last category here for business. Cost. I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a second. We went to the game on Saturday. We pay $25 for parking, for tailgating, and it was raining. I get it, but even if it's raining, and I understand people want to tailgate and have some space, completely fine. We were driving through there, Tom. I was
K-Lot.
I was gripping the steering wheel, in the K-Lot, because there were people taking up 8, 10 spots to tailgate. And we had nowhere to park. It's like, be considerate. Like, I can understand taking 1, maybe 2 spots to have some space.
You know, it's raining. Everybody's trying to get under the cover. K-Lot, save a spot or 2. But yeah, it was like there was like a half of a high school in the one section.
It was crazy. So I guess the message here is just for all our listeners, for fans, be good fans, be considerate of those who are out there tailgating too. Everybody wants to have a good time. How can we all do it together? It was just I was so annoyed.
Dave's blood pressure, like Nola was not enough. He's got.
Yeah.
Now we all just want to park and have a couple drinks, and but yeah, I agree. So just be smart about it.
And then wrapping up here, looking forward.
Big one coming up. Big series coming up. Ooh,
Big one coming up.
Hit my Jeff KURKJIAN voice there for a second. Sorry, Jeff.
No problem.
We have the Texas Rangers, defending world champions, coming up. They are currently, what's their record, Tom? They're right at 500.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams, but even with that, oh man. It's coming out. Saturday, we happened to after the win, rain. Other friends went to Xfinity. My voice is gone from this weekend. I'm still trying to recover here. They are at.
I think we said they're at 500.
Yeah, they're second in the West.
And if they are at 500, you know what's going to happen. They're going to dip below.
Yeah, 24-24. Yep, they're right at 500.
So we're going to beat them. We're either going to sweep them or beat them 2-1 in the series. They'll dip below 500, and then all of a sudden, Phillies still haven't played any teams that are over 500.
Now, Rangers are a good team. That's all. That's nonsense. All that stuff out there.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good test.
It will be. It will be. The next series, not a good test. We play the Rockies again in Colorado. I hope that we get a sweep there. It would be. Especially with, we got Sanchez, Nola, and Ranger pitching in that series.
Yeah, I think they get it done there.
I think so too. And then rounding out until the next time we record and have our next episode, we're going to be playing the Giants in San Francisco next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Back to the West Coast, but luckily only one of them is at 9:45 p.m. The other two looks like early games out there at 5 o'clock on Monday and 3:45 on Wednesday. So I'll take that for the West Coast all day. I can actually watch them.
That 5 o'clock game on Monday is absolutely perfect.
It's on ESPN game.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. The 5 p.m. game on Monday is great.
Good stuff.
They should do that more often.
All right, so I think that pretty much wraps up the business review here at the Phils Boardroom today. Probably send it back over to ourselves.
All right, so thanks, Tim. And to wrap it up today, we are going to go through our team building activity. And as Tom alluded to earlier in the show, we are going to be sharing a few KURKJIANs, Phillies style today. So one of them being Aaron Nola in his complete game last Tuesday on the 14th. Through the 202nd three-pitch inning in MLB history, it lasted 85 seconds.
You got to understand, Dave and Aaron Nola have a very interesting relationship. From the time Aaron Nola came into the league, Aaron Nola is a great Philly, beyond the doubt.
He is. I get frustrated
arguably
sometimes.
Mount Rushmore, but that inning that comes along where there's a couple long balls, Dave, he watches enough where he gets a little frustrated with
I don't
Aaron
have much
Nola.
patience.
Dave, it's a hard game to play.
I know.
Even
I
really
understand.
good pitchers
I
have bad
understand.
innings, and really good hitters have bad games. It happens.
You're right. So with that, Has there ever been another 3-pitch inning where the leadoff batter got on base?
Well, I'm sure there has been. Leadoff guy gets, say, hit by a pitch. Next guy grounds into a double play. Next guy swings at the first pitch, I'm sure. The beauty of baseball is almost everything has happened at one time or another if you look closely enough. So I am relatively certain that there's been a 3-pitch inning with the first batter reaching base. I mean, Buck Showalter told Jeffrey and I recently about the triple play that happened where the ball never touched a fielder's glove. So anything is possible.
That's true. So on that note, is it possible for a 2-pitch inning to ever happen in the major leagues?
Well, now we're getting into
We got the ghost runner.
Ghost runner, intentional walk, potentially.
Yes, yes. Well, with a ghost runner, anything is possible. With a runner at second, you hit the first pitch to start the bottom of the 10th inning single. It's a 1-pitch inning, and the game's over. But the ghost runner doesn't count. The ghost runner is a rule that shouldn't even be in the game, if you ask me. All the rules change with ghost runners. I saw something the other day. The pitcher, didn't give up a hit, didn't allow a base runner, there were no errors on the play, and he got the loss in the game because they started with a runner at second. They sacrificed him to third. Fly ball scores him. The guy got everyone out, and he got the loss. There's something wrong with that equation.
It definitely has a different element and level of strategy. But it is possible, like you said, and it actually happened once in the minors in 2018 where there was a ghost runner. So in that situation, I guess it could happen someday. But
right. I hope not. And I hope they get rid of the ghost runner next year. But they're not
Well,
going
we all know
to.
where Tim Kurkjian stands now.
Could not agree more.
Right.
I was expecting that answer, and there it is. One last note as we're wrapping up here, our team building exercise. Father-son duos in honor of your podcast. Is this a great game or what? One more time, you got to catch Tim Kurkjian and Jeff Kurkjian every Tuesday. They drop on YouTube and anywhere else you find social media or podcasts. So we are slowly falling in love with Cody Clemens,
right?
Whose father is famously, obviously, Roger Clemens. That's a major reason I don't have a voice right now.
Right, because he hit a home run or he got a big hit, and you're screaming still, right?
Saturday,
2 outs in the ninth,
right?
Yep, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, and then Harper got the sac fly, got the glory, and then 2 doubles the next day.
Right.
So we were curious, in your opinion, some of the best father-son duos you've seen, or what you think of the kid Clemens, if he was going to be a real pro, because he's kind of become what we expected Merrifield to be.
Yeah, well, Cody Clemens is a good player, and he can play multiple positions, and if you ever get in a blowout loss, he can pitch because his dad taught him how to do it. Cody Clemens has pitched a bunch of times in Major League games, mostly as a mop-up guy, but to have somebody on your roster who's an extra player who can pitch, that makes it really good. The greatest father-son combination, I don't think there's a close second, or it has to be Barry and Bobby Bonds. So you guys don't even know who Bobby Bonds was, because he was a great player in his time. And I saw something the other day, I'm going to be close on this, that this is how beautiful baseball is. Barry Bonds hit a home run like on every calendar day from like April 1st until like October 1st. Hit a home run on every day in his career, except for, and I'll be close here, August the 4th. And that was the day that his father hit the most home runs in his career, was on August the 4th, and Barry Bonds never hit a home run that day. But when you look, I mean, this is why baseball is so beautiful, is these crazy things happen that just make you slap your forehead. But, Barry hit the most homers ever. After Babe Ruth and Ted Williams is the greatest hitter I've ever seen. Bobby Bonds in his prime was fantastic. So when you combine the home runs, the stolen bases, the MVPs, the All-Stars, I'm not sure there's anybody that can beat Barry and Bobby Bonds.
So I guess I don't know if I'm showing my age or as much that I'm not a historian I thought I was I'm going to assume Bobby was a Yankee or a Brooklyn
Bobby
Dodger.
played for about 8 teams. Bobby started with the San Francisco Giants, but ended up with the Angels and the Yankees and the Rangers. He got traded an awful lot, but not because he wasn't good. It was because he was good, and all sorts of teams wanted him.
That's awesome.
It is pretty awesome. Well, Tim, it's been great having you on today. Thank you again for taking some time to talk everything baseball, but especially the Phillies with us today. Really enjoyed it. And with that,
Yeah, absolute pleasure, Tim. You're more than welcome to join the Phils Boardroom at any time, obviously.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for coming to our studio here.
Yeah,
Put
absolutely.
together by my brilliant son, Jeff.
Yes,
who
thank you, Jeff.
knows technology better than anyone.
The best kickball captain I've ever met.
All right, well, go Phils.
All right, go Phils.